Hey, 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 everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. I know it's late on a Saturday night, and I'm actually trying something different. Um, I am going live on both Facebook and Instagram. And so if you know me, you know, anything that can go wrong with technology usually does go wrong. However, um, I think this is a necessary conversation, and I really want to start doing more of this. So, yeah, tap in, tap in, tap in. It's a late night wellness check. I'm just checking in on you because I know that we are about to get into this holiday season, and it can be overwhelming. So what I really want to just kind of talk to you guys about, and just get some thoughts on, is how do we approach the holidays? How do we approach quarter four? How do we approach this end of the year? Because life is always lifing, and when you add in the holiday season, that just makes it 10 times worse. So, how do we prepare for the holidays? Right? That's what we're talking about. So, go ahead, share this with some folks. Um how do we prepare for the holidays? That's the question. That's the question we're asking. It's the question we are asking on today, on tonight actually. How do we prepare? So there are a lot of things that are happening as we get into the quarter four, right? When we think of quarter four, we think Thanksgiving, we think Christmas, we think parties and get-togethers, festivities, we think buying gifts for Christmas. And it can be a lot of stress if we let it. The objective is to learn how to not allow quarter four to take you out before we get into 2023. Okay. So there are a few things I think of, right? I know several people because this is Halloween. It's fall festival time, it's trunk or treating time, and I know plenty of families who by far, and it's not even October 31st, have already done 50 million. Yes, 50 million trunk or treats, Halloween costume parties, you name it, we've done it, right? So let's talk real quick about how did we not stress ourselves out during the holiday season. So first of all, we have to figure out what our boundaries are, right? We know that there are extra things, there are extra requests that are asked of us. So let's take, for example, because one really big one that happens during the holidays is hosting parties. Hosting parties and attending holiday parties. So those are two really big ones. Determine up front, number one, if you are attending these holiday parties. All right, be well prepared. So let's just say, for example, you are fresh in a relationship, or you are freshly single. That means when you show up to the Christmas party, when you show up to the Thanksgiving gathering, when you show up just holiday themed celebrations, there are going to be questions people are going to ask. right? We know how people operate, and you know how the people you hang out with, you know how they think. We know how they operate. So be proactive in determining, okay, what does this holiday season look like for me? So if by chance you are newly single, right? There's some kind of shift in your relationship, determine upfront, what am I going to say when people are asking about my relationship? That's a valid question. People are going to ask because they want to know. Number one, people are nosy. People are curious by nature. And some people will be concerned, but mostly people are just, they're making small talk and they want the tea. So determine what your answer will be. And know at the end of the day, you don't owe anyone an explanation for the change in your relationship, right? Determine what your answer is and stick to it. You don't have to add to it. You don't have to allow people into your personal space. That space, that information remains yours. So determine, what's my answer? What will my answer be? How much information am I willing to share? And you stick to that. Thank you, Rita. Stick to it. You don't owe anyone anything, right? So, like I said, go ahead, share this out. This is late night. It is impromptu. I'm up, I'm awake, um, and available. So, like I said, this is very, very impromptu. But go ahead, share it out. If you have questions, while I'm on, put them in the chat, and um if I see them, I will try to answer them. So, as like I said, let's just say you are freshly single in your relationship, right? Figure out what your answer is, how you want to approach it, and don't veer from it. Do not veer from whatever prepared commentary you have. You do not owe people that. You don't sleep with them at night. You don't owe them. Okay? So, that's if you are freshly single. Let's just say you are at the other end of that. You are new within a relationship. Let's just say maybe you are newly married. And I think this is one I'll come back and probably do a little more in depth. But do yourself a favor, and before the season gets started too heavily, determine how you want to spend your holidays. Okay? Determine where you're going for Thanksgiving. Determine where you're going for Christmas. Determine which parties you want to attend, how you want to show up at those events. Because if there's one thing that happens when we are in a relationship, is there is a pull for your time from each side of your family, right? The wife's parents, or the wife's family, they expect you to share with them during the holidays, but then the husband's family expects, you know the family to be with them. And dear Lord, if you have kids in the mix, if there are some grandkids, just make sure that up front you are preparing for where you are attending your holiday festivities. Okay. And make sure that you are having these conversations with your significant other. Don't just be out here in these streets giving answers to people without checking in with your mate. Okay? Let's not do that. Next thing. Hey, Dr. Cheryl. Hey. We are talking about how are we handling quarter four? And we are specifically at this point talking about how do we handle quarter four in how we show up for those end of year holiday festivities. Okay. And we've talked about if we're showing up and we're freshly single, remember, prepare your answer. Know what you're willing to share with people, know what you don't want to share, and stick with that. Next thing, if you are showing up to family functions or you are showing up to um, holiday festivities and you are new within your relationship, it is a new marriage, be forewarned that both sides of your family want to spend time with you. And you don't really, and you probably won't even realize it until it's happening. But many times we are so pulled by our families into different directions that we don't have time to start settling in on what the traditions of our home, right? Those who are newly married, those who are, I say, if you are 5 years or less in your relationship, in your marriage, you're still a newlywed with this. And it takes time to determine, hey, how does our house function? What do we want to do in the holiday season? And if you don't set some boundaries, family will always say, hey, well, you should be coming to our house for the holidays, or you should be coming here. So be sure that you are having the conversations of where will we spend our holidays? Where will we spend each holiday? And then look at what your desire is. Look at what your desire is. One partner's desire may be to be home for the holidays, right? And those feelings should be taken into consideration. So those are conversations to start having now. We are at the end of October. If you have not started having these conversations, do yourself a favor and start having these conversations now. That way, you are not upset when the holiday season rolls around and your significant other has volunteered you to attend said event that you didn't really want to attend. All right. So those are the two things that we have covered so far. And like I said, I'll probably come back and do something a little bit more in depth on how we approach the holiday season with as in our relationships, because there will also be people this season who are newly divorced and who are um newly um their spouse passed away, and it's the first holiday season they will be spending without a loved one. And so there are quite a few different nuances that are happening. But when these nuances start happening, it draws on our anxiety. It draws on our just on our mood in general. And if we're not intentional, we end up overly anxious, or we end up in a seasonal funk. And that's another one that we'll come back and talk a little bit more about in the coming weeks. But be sure that you are intentional in how you're going to spend your holiday season. Um, One other one is, there's always this pressure to figure out how how many gifts are we buying? You know, are we throwing a party? What kind of money are we spending for our kids for gifts? Listen, set your boundaries. Have a realistic budget because you have to live after the holidays. You have to live after the holidays. Set a realistic budget and make sure that you are instilling um, appropriate morals and values into your kids. Because here's the thing, whether or not you spend $1,000 on people for Christmas or during the holiday season or 10, it will be appreciated the same in about a week. I've seen it happen with our children. If we spend $500, the excitement is the same is as if we spent $50. So make sure that you set a realistic budget for yourselves for this holiday season, so that you can live after the holiday season. Okay. Now, let me know if you have questions, comments. Um, let me know as we are going. Like I said, this is a late night check-in. Hey, Super Trucker 1034. Hey, Rita L. But this is a late night check-in. Just as we're getting ready to go into this holiday season, because it does breed anxiety. It breeds grief for some people. It breeds depression. It breeds this pressure to perform on many different levels, right? Also, make sure that you're checking in with your other family members and your friends, because you will have friends that fit all of these circumstances, whether it is they are newly single, they are newly divorced, maybe they have loved ones that are passed away, maybe they're new empty nesters. You never know, but make sure that you are being intentional with how you check in with the individuals who are in your life, and not just in your life, but even those who may not necessarily be your closest friends or your closest colleagues, but just those people who are around you. Because this is also a season where we see a lot more depression. We see a lot more um, suicide attempts. We see these things. All right. So make sure that you're checking in with your people. Hey, Lady Rogers 35. Thank you for joining us on tonight. Lastly, lastly, I'm going to keep this very short, because I think this is another one that deserves its own time. Um, but it's getting cold outside, and there is a thing called cuffing season. And I know you've heard of cuffing season. And if you haven't, you must be living under a rock. Now, what is cuffing season? Cuffing season is when we want warmth. We like to be comforted. It's like a warm bowl of soup. It's like, when I think of winter, I think of chili. I think of fireplaces. I think of sitting in a recliner. I think of just being cozy, right? Now, in cuffing season, which is during the winter time, during the cold season, we don't like to be alone. We like warmth. We like company. And sometimes we will take company at all costs, no matter who it's coming from. Because we don't want to go to the holiday parties alone. We don't want to sit in the house and eat a bowl of chili or a bowl of soup alone. We want companionship. But here's the deal. If he or she, and I think I posted this a while back on one of my social media pages. Hey, Miss Latasha, um, if he or she has not given you the time of day all year, he or she does not deserve your warmth during the winter season. Period. Now, I know that may seem a little bit harsh because all of a sudden you have their attention, they have your attention. But if they have not laid eyes on you all year, chances are this will be short lived. And if they only want to see you at night, ma'am, sir, the re- it's not a relationship. It is not a relationship. Okay. Now, let's be to be fair, to be clear, everyone has their own um um right, shall we say, to decide up front. I understand what it is. I understand this is cuffing season. And I understand that this thing, this season, this temporary relationship is just that. It is a temporary relationship. And I'm okay with that. And I am emotionally mature enough to not become emotionally involved in a way that's going to end with my heart broken. Sounds great in theory, doesn't it? But truthfully, as my grandmother would say, and even my dad, usually if you play with fire, you will get burnt. So even those of us who think, you know what, I got it, I know what it is, I know how to control my emotions. Okay. Especially if you're a woman, because guess what? And you know, like I know, with women, we're emotional by nature for the most part. Now, there are some of us who are completely emotionally shut down, but for the most part, many of us are emotionally driven. And you may walk into cuffing season with this strong exterior thinking, "Oh, I got it. I'm okay." And you end up with your feelings hurt. So, be careful in cuffing season. As the weather continues to get colder, and be sure that if you decide to enter into a relationship of sorts, and I'm going to say a relationship of sorts, that you are well aware of what it is and what it's not. All right. Now, are there any questions? I'm getting ready to wrap up. Are we all good? Are we prepared for the holiday season? Have our boundaries together? We know how we're showing up to the holiday mixers if we're single. We know how we're showing up if we are newly in a relationship. All right. Now, if you want to, even if you want to send me some questions, make sure slide it in my DMs. That's cool. That's fine. Um, Other than that, have a great night. Have a great Saturday night, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.